I'm using a voice transcription app for this because I've never been great at typing. And honestly, I'm not the best storyteller either. This happened a long time ago. 6, maybe 7 or 8 years back. I don't remember the exact year. A lot has happened since then, and my memories from that time are kind of jumbled. This night never left me. It was New Year's Eve, back when I was still dating my ex Duda. We were driving back from a party at one of her friend's apartments. We showed up late, and by the time we got there, every couch and spare bed was already taken. Staying the night wasn't an option, so even though driving on New Year's Eve is a terrible idea, we had no choice. The drive was long, around 30 minutes. The roads were nearly empty, which I was thankful for. It had snowed earlier that day, and everything was coated in ice. The last thing I wanted was traffic on top of slick roads. Duda was half asleep in the passenger seat. I had the heat blasting and a random rock playlist playing just to keep myself awake. We were about 10 minutes from her place when it happened. 1 second, the road ahead of us was completely empty. The next second, there was a woman standing in the middle of the street. She wasn't crossing. She wasn't moving. She was just standing there facing my car, like she had been waiting for us. My brain didn't process it fast enough. I slammed on the brakes before I even fully understood what I was looking at. And then I noticed what she was holding. A knife. It was a huge kitchen knife, the kind you'd use to carve a turkey. She was holding it down by her side. My headlights hit her directly, and I could see her face clearly. It was twisted, like she was crying, screaming, or both at the same time. There was something deeply wrong about it. I didn't think. I yanked the steering wheel to the right to avoid her. The moment I did, she lunged toward the car. I heard the sound of metal before my mind caught up. She had swung the knife at the car as we passed, but between the sudden swerve and the ice, the tires lost traction. The car started spinning. Duda woke up screaming. I was gripping the steering wheel as hard as I could, but it didn't matter. The car was completely out of my control. We spun almost all the way around before finally coming to a stop. When everything went still, I looked up through the windshield, and my stomach dropped. We were facing the direction we had just come from, which meant we were facing her. She was still there, about 30 feet away, holding the knife. My headlights lit her up like a scene from a horror movie. She started limping toward us, clearly injured but still moving fast. She was screaming, but not words. Just this deep, guttural sound that didn't sound human at all. If you're into real horror stories like this, make sure you're subscribed. Because what happens next is where everything completely spirals out of control. Duda was yelling at me to do something, but I was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. Her clothes were torn and filthy. Her hair was matted and wild. And her eyes, there was nothing behind them. No emotion, no awareness. She looked like a dead person walking. She was maybe 15 feet away when my survival instincts finally kicked in. I threw the car into drive and slammed on the gas. The tires spun uselessly on the ice for a terrifying second before finally gripping. We started moving. For a brief moment, I thought we were safe. I was wrong. I don't know how she moved that fast. 1 second, she was in front of the car, and the next, she was on it. She threw herself onto the hood, and the impact made the entire car shudder. Duda was screaming. I was shouting. The woman clung to the hood with one hand while stabbing the windshield over and over with the knife. I genuinely thought she was trying to get inside the car and kill us. Her face was inches from the glass, and her eyes were locked on mine the entire time. I couldn't think. I couldn't see straight. I just started swerving the wheel back and forth as hard as I could. She slid across the hood but refused to let go, still screaming that horrible, wordless scream. On the third or fourth violent swerve, she finally lost her grip. I watched her roll off the hood, slam into the pavement, and slide into the shoulder of the road. The car fishtailed again, but somehow I managed to keep it under control. I looked in the rearview mirror. She wasn't moving. For a moment, I thought about stopping. As insane as that sounds, I thought maybe I'd killed her. Maybe she was just someone having a mental breakdown, and I had just ended her life. Duda grabbed my arm and begged me not to stop. She kept saying we needed to leave, that it wasn't our problem, that we couldn't get involved. I said we should call the police. She shut that down immediately. She said we'd been drinking, that the cops wouldn't believe us, that they'd blame us. None of it made sense, but in that moment, she made it sound urgent and logical. So I drove home. I never told anyone. The damage to the car wasn't even that bad. A cracked windshield, knife marks on the driver's side window, a few scratches on the hood. There wasn't even any blood. I fixed it about a week later, but the guilt stayed with me for months. I checked the local news constantly, waiting to see something, anything, about a missing woman or a body found on that road. Nothing ever came up. What disturbed me the most was Duda. Within days, she acted like nothing had happened. When I tried to talk about it, she said I was being dramatic. We broke up a few months later, officially for unrelated reasons. But that night changed how I saw her. Maybe I'm the crazy one. But you don't just forget something like that. A woman tried to kill us, and we might have killed her. It was New Year's Eve, and like every year, New York was buzzing with parties, music, and chaos. This particular night ended up being unforgettable for reasons I still can't explain. It happened a few years ago, back when I was in college. I was in New York, and Garrett, whose real name is Guo, though he introduced himself as Garrett in the US, was in Hong Kong. He's originally from Hong Kong and a computer science genius, genuinely one of the smartest people I know. That night, I spent New Year's Eve with my two closest friends in the city, Ryland and Airy. We started at Ryland's apartment with drinks and conversation, then moved to a rooftop party in Williamsburg that a co-worker of Ari's had invited us to. Around 11:30 p.m. New York time, I noticed a girl standing alone near the bar. She had an energy I couldn't describe. Funny, engaging, easy to talk to. I introduced myself, and within minutes, she pulled me onto the dance floor. Her name was Maitra, or Mitra, as she joked. I laughed, she spelled it on my hand so I wouldn't forget, and we continued talking. By midnight, we kissed. Around 12:30, she suggested leaving, so we grabbed an Uber back to my apartment in the East Village. We stayed up talking for hours. She told me she was originally from San Diego, a painter who had done graffiti and murals before transitioning to more traditional work. Her middle name was Mia, which was also the name of one of her cats. The other cat was named Cosmo. Her birthday was April 28th. Her best friend growing up was from a tiny German town called Hillesheim, and her dad was a patent lawyer. At some point, she mentioned her clothes smelled like the bar, so I threw them in the wash. She borrowed one of my t-shirts to sleep in, and we went to bed. The next morning, she was gone. At first, I thought she had left early to avoid awkwardness, but then I noticed something impossible. My apartment door's lock was engaged from the outside, which is only possible with a key, and the windows barely opened. I searched every corner, every inch of the apartment. Nothing. Her clothes were gone from the dryer, and the t-shirt I lent her had vanished. I started questioning my sanity. Later that afternoon, on a random impulse, I called Garrett. We caught up about work and New Year's celebrations. When I told him about the girl, he said the exact same thing had happened to him. He had met a girl the night before, hit it off, she stayed over, then left without a word and without leaving contact. Her name? Mitra. Everything matched. The birthday, the cats, the artistic background, even the tiny details I had remembered. Garrett even had pictures of her. And here's the twist. The timing made it physically impossible. Hong Kong is 13 hours ahead of New York. Garrett met her around 11 p.m. on December 31st, Hong Kong time. I met her around 11:30 p.m. on December 31st, New York time. That's roughly a 12-hour difference. Even if she had boarded a plane instantly, which takes 16 to 17 hours from Hong Kong to New York, there was no way she could have physically met both of us. Even ignoring the flight time, how would she have known the exact rooftop party, used the same name, and had all the same details? It was impossible. We've never seen her again. Searching online gave nothing. Mitra, artist, from San Diego, no last name. Everything about her existence defies logic. The fact that she stayed over, talked to me for hours, and vanished from a locked apartment with no exits makes it feel unreal. Garrett and I have tried to rationalize it, but there's no explanation. Some days I think she was a ghost. Some days I think the universe glitched. Even now, every New Year's Eve brings back the memory vividly. The details feel too real, the timing too impossible, and the coincidence too precise. She existed. We know she existed. But how? Where did she go? How did she manage both encounters? We still don't know. It all began long before I was born, during my dad's younger years. A time he often described as simpler, yet filled with strange, unexplainable moments that stayed with him forever. My parents were both passionate skiers. They lived in New York City, but found their greatest escape in the mountains of Vermont. Over several years, they purchased multiple lodges, each holding its own story and character. One of the earliest was the Black House, named for its black shutters and its mysterious previous owner, Mr. Black of West End Avenue, New York. The Black House was more than a getaway, it was social. To make it financially viable, my parents sold quarter shares to close friends, rotating usage every few months, so every group could enjoy the lodge and the winter scenery. Eventually, the family shifted to another property, halfway between Lello and Rutland, along Route 100 in the Lake District. This region has 5 lakes in a row, each more beautiful than the last. The lodge sat on the edge of one, offering breathtaking views through its large, full-length windows, reflecting the serene beauty of the snow-covered landscape. This lodge was co-owned by my dad, Victor, and Victor's wife, Lisa. Dad and Victor had been friends since college, and over the years, they and their partners often spent New Year's together here, creating long-lasting memories. One particularly cold New Year's Eve, years before I was born, my dad and Victor were alone. Lisa and my mom were attending a friend's wedding. They sat upstairs, sharing beers, reminiscing, and talking about life while watching snow fall silently across the frozen lake. The night was calm, almost magical. Then, something strange happened. A blinding flash erupted from somewhere across the frozen lake. Dad first assumed fireworks, but this light came from the ground, illuminating the forest and ice with unnatural brightness. There was no sound, no boom or crackle. Victor moved closer to the window, swearing he saw movement on the lake. Dad doubted it. The lake was frozen solid. Then they heard it faintly. A high-pitched voice. "Help! Help!" Repeated, desperate. A child's voice. Without thinking, they threw on coats and boots and ran across the icy surface. Every step was precarious, but the child's cries drove them forward. At the center of the lake, they made out a small figure. A child, 20 or 30 yards from the far bank. Its shape was barely visible against the snow. Before they could reach it, a second blinding flash erupted. Dad dropped to his knees, shielding his eyes. When he looked again, the child had vanished. The lake was empty. Terrified, they scrambled back to the lodge. Inside, Victor screamed, pointing to the upstairs window. He claimed to see a child there. Dad saw nothing, only dark reflections of snow and ice outside. They searched the lodge thoroughly. Closets, under beds, behind doors. Nothing. Every door locked, every window shut. No footprints, no marks, not even a hint of disturbance. Shaken, they returned to their rooms, unaware that midnight had passed. Throughout the night, Dad swore he heard faint, childlike laughter echoing through the house, stopping whenever he tried to locate it. Eventually, he gave up, too unnerved to investigate further. The most disturbing part, the light. The blinding, inexplicable flashes had no source, no sound, and defied all logic. Yet they occurred twice that night. For years, Dad and Victor speculated. Rare lightning, distant fireworks, or military flares. Nothing fit. The story haunted Dad every New Year's Eve. The frozen lake, the child's cries, the blinding light. A night suspended in time. A mystery never solved. Even now, when he recounts it, I feel the chill in his voice and see his unease. Some things in life exist beyond understanding. That lake, that child, that blinding light. They exist outside logic, leaving reality itself in question. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable tales. Comment below. Was it supernatural? A glitch in reality? Or an unexplainable coincidence? We want your theories, and maybe we'll explore them next.